Peace and blessings. This is something I just saw and I wanted to share. Big shout out to the Groxt one who motivated and inspired this video, and I really appreciate your service. Love your videos, and don't be flustered and frustrated with people. I know how it can be sometimes, but you've got a gift, and he said that those who have eyes to see and those who have ears to hear. You've got eyes to see. Sometimes when you show something, I can't see it until after you point it out, and you know, I can feel my flesh rising up and make me want to say, well, no, I don't know, that's subjective, but you know, you really got you've got a gift, and it's a peculiar gift. He said that his people would be a peculiar people. But all right, let's jump into this thing now. I've done a video already on 777, and I'm not going to rehash that information. So if you want to see more about 777 besides what was just revealed to me moments ago, then you'll want to look at that video if you so decide to do so. But it can, and I've also done one on SIRI, and that was expanded upon by what Brother Groxt had just shown and proved, that sometimes when you say, well, you know, show me some proof, or where did you get your research, things get scrubbed. Okay, anything that's too indicting of the powers that be, or that could be too easily brought forth for everyone to see, and maybe to wake up too many people at one time, then they will scrub that. But they'll leave certain things up because they want to see who will catch it first. And you know, when you catch it first and you get out there with it, then you know they're more aware of who is more aware. But July 27th was the date that many people had done videos about and had made postings about, saying that if you asked SIRI, like you can ask SIRI a lot of odd questions, and oddly enough there are responses. But if you asked SIRI, what is July 27th, prior to them changing it, SIRI would say to you, July 27th, opening the gates of Hades. And we know that Hades is the Greek equivalent of hell. Now this all has to do with the increased demonic activity that's coming upon the earth and the return of Messiah, which is at hand, Maranatha. Okay, so let's look at July 27th. And why would they put that out and then scrub it? Sometimes they put out signs and symbols to draw out the elite and the elect of the Most High, and then sometimes they do that simply to speak to one another. You know, some of these technologies were for the powers that shouldn't be first, before they were brought out here to be bought by you and me. But July 27th, I looked at some things after the Grox showed some things too, and when I broke down July 27th, I found, you know, by way of their numerology, I didn't do the gematria on it, that might be interesting too, but just to look at July as the 7th month, 7 plus 2 plus 7 equals 16. To do their form of numerology, to open up their playbook and see what play they may be running, or what code or symbol they may be giving one another, you have to break the numbers down all the way. And of course, we don't believe in these occult practices, but we need to have some working knowledge of what the enemy and his peons know and understand. So when you look at numerology, you have to break down the number to one single number. So those 7 plus 2 plus 7 equals 16. Then you have to do the math on 1 plus 6, which is 16 broken down. And there you get 7 again. So there's 2 7s. Okay? Some of you are already making some connections. Then I looked at the fact that it was 2014. And the 14, when you write the date the way that we all write dates, you know, commonly, you don't put the beginning part of the date, but you put the ending. And 14 is, of course, 2 7s by itself. So then I said, well, let me do the whole numerological thing on 7 plus 2 plus 7 plus 1 plus 4. And that equals 21, which ironically is 7, 7, 7. 3 7s together. And why is that significant? Well, because we know that these theistic slave masters, they do have a theology that they follow. They hide it and cloak it in other things. Some people will point and say, well, it's the Catholic Church, or some people even will say it's Christian religion. Some will say it's Islam. But in reality, they are Luciferians, and they believe in demonology. They believe in the conjuring of demons, and they believe in ritually indoctrinating you and I into inadvertently not only accepting their conjuring and celebrating it, but also in inadvertently allowing things to come through us as well. And our people do perish for lack of knowledge. So when you look at 777, what does it mean? What does it have to do with? Well, first of all, the star of the show in that trio of numbers is, of course, 7. And 7, we're told, most believers are told that 7 is the number of completion, or the end, as in the world being created in 7 days. Well, it also has to do with the demise. The end of something can be the demise, i.e. in Detroit 187, which came on Channel 7 here in Detroit. ABC News it's an ABC station, which is a Disney station. We know Disney is all about mind control, but the 1 plus the 8, the 9 plus the 7, 16, and again 16 broken down as 1 plus 6 equals 7. And it was a coded way of saying the completion or the end of Detroit, with the end of old Detroit and the bringing forth of a new one. And then, of course, 7779311 was a big song on urban radio by a group produced by Prince, and we know Prince's involvement in this whole thing, and his work that he's done for his masters, for whom he, turned himself a slave at one time and cut slave in his beard. But he produced a group and was heavily behind the group, where you can hear him singing background vocals on just about every song. But they had a big song called 7779311. I remember as a young guy calling that number, and my cousins and friends and stuff was calling that number like crazy, until finally whoever had the number, they got it cut off. But all of those numbers involved in that phone number, and I know he had a story, like there will be backstories that'll be lies. Secret, you tell a secret, you tell a lie. But or you keep a secret, you tell a lie. But and I don't mean when someone takes confidence in you and telling you something private. I mean when you're in a secret society and have that level of secret, a secret oath, you'll tell a lie if you'll take an oath. But a secret oath. And what we see here is 3 key numbers involved in numerology: the 77 or the 777, the 93, and the 11. And yet a backstory was that was somebody's number, some producer or some guy from the studio and music business that was tight with Prince, and that was supposed to be Prince's way of pranking the guy. That's what we're told. But we're going to look at a couple of things, not much. But 93, when you break down 93, and again, you have the 3 planes involved in 911. If you take out the 3 in 9311, you'll have 911. But the 3 planes that were involved was Flight 77, Flight 93, and Flight 11. What a coincidence, or like I like to say, coincidence. But you also have had the disappearance of Flight 777. All of these things are all ways that the hoaxes and rituals are encoded so that those who are involved in the brotherhood understand that they're moving forward with their agenda. And also, kind of a way to throw up their gang sign to the opposing side, which would be the believer, so that they can see, hey, we are moving forward. We're doing what we said that we would do, in spite of you. And it serves that purpose as well. Don't discount it, as well as to try to draw out and see, okay, now who is aware among the people? Who do we have to be concerned about? Who do we need to put in internment camps and close down public schools first? But the 93, the 9 plus 3, the 12, that is also, again, symbolic of the end. The end of what? The end of the clock. You have the 12 disciples. You have the 12 months of the year. Okay. You also have the 12 hours of the day. And they believe that the midnight hour, or the 12, the end of the clock, will symbolize the end of the old world order and the beginning of the new, the end of the old empire or the rise of the new. And 11 has a couple of applications, one of them being it's almost the end. We're almost there, almost time. But the most important one is it symbolizes duality. And if you see the 11, it also is symbolic of the two towers which were involved. And again, you see, if you take out the 3, if you remove the Trinity, mockery of the Trinity, if you remove the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, then they will be left with 9/11, they believe. But also it has to do with duality, always duality. The wizard, okay, who believes himself to be both man and deity. Okay, really, the wizard is filled with a demon spirit, so it's 2 of them. So there you have the twins, 11 representing the twins in duality. Also the duality of mind control, having an altered ego or alter personality, and an alter, like alter, A-L-T-E-R, is the same as A-L-T-A-R, believe it or not. E and A both have the same origin, and in reality E is just another form of A. Even in the sounds that it makes, A can make the same sounds, and A is the original vowel. We talked about that before in the spell videos. But it has to do with duality, the wizard or the magician, and again with being almost the end, and the 9 and the 3 being the end of the order, the end of the age, and the mockery of the Trinity. 9 and 3 being 12. All right, now let's look again at who told about the opening of the gates of Hades. Was SIRI, which is artificial intelligence personified. Don't believe that it's lightweight jamming like they want you to believe. Okay, that is symbolic of a demon inhabiting electronics, which happens all of the time. If you're spiritually aware, and if you're aware, period, it's happened to you probably a number of times, and you may believe it's always the alphabet boys, but it does not have to be. They can do things a lot more economically and efficient, and they don't have to have a spook walking around following you, as in the slang term for an agent, but they can have an actual spook, as in the slang term for a spirit, which is another analogy of Agent Smith being both an agent and a spirit being, okay, a demon. But SIRI told us, and of course we know SIRI is a play, and I said this in the other video that I made a week or two ago about SIRI and July 27th. But SIRI is a play off the word SIRIus. It's obvious, and the us at the end has to do with the os, or os of Osiris, Osiris. And SIRIus is the dog star of the Dogon tribe. I wonder, did they call themselves the Dogon tribe? Dogon backward is no god. They did have a god indeed, and they did say that their god taught them about SIRIus, the presence of Sirius A and even Sirius B, which was until I think this is some 40 years later undiscovered by conventional science, we're told. But we know that because scientists are often, just about without exception, brotherhood members, and very important to the brotherhood at that, and they would have certain secret knowledge that they would not be able to put out in your face until the appointed time. But we're told that the tribe called the Dogon tribe said that the fish-headed ones would come and tell them about the stars and teach them things about astronomy that they would be unable to know simply with their naked eye. And of course their civilization is one which we would call primitive, and not having any telescopes or any a real telescopic ability, scientists found it wondrous that they were able to see this star. Now this could all be an implanted story to help to give reptilian demons the glory, because we know the fish-headed one, these green beings, were nothing but more evidence or more tales of reptilians on Earth interacting with human beings, and even their art depicted that. They had artwork and little sculptures which depicted women laying down in sexualized positions with the breasts in cone shapes, which was to show fertility or to show sexual readiness, and alligator-headed beings lurking over them in the Dogon's art, in their sculptures. But SIRIus, Siri and Osiris, the connection between the two, we know that this was also important to the Egyptians, and Osiris was the green king, called Osir in that time, but known in modern times by the Greek, the Osiris. And he was the green king. Like you see Krishna always symbolized with a snake around his neck, or like you saw the pharaohs with the uraeus, or the serpent at the tops of their headdress. Osiris was green, and this had to do with the exaltation of the reptilian being, who was the one who taught mankind about royalty as mankind practices it today. And of course, he went first to well, that particular type of demon was powerful and well regarded in Egypt. Just look at the temple of Hathor. Look at the depictions on the temple of Hathor of the royalty interacting with long, slender, serpentine beings. Hence, earth, wind, and fire, serpentine fire. And this has to do with the magic and the demonology of the elite, because also there is the importance of the mate of Osiris, who was Isis. And when you see the obelisks, which is the shape that the Washington Monument is in, and we know there's been a lot of videos exposing the importance of the obelisk, which is a phallic symbol, and that has to do with the story of Osiris and Isis, where we're told that Osiris's evil brother Set, which is where you get Saturn, okay, and the temple of Set, but Osiris's brother set him up and cut him up, and Isis used words of power, to go and find the dismembered pieces, and the last piece that she had to find was the phallic symbol, and then he was assembled, he was reassembled, and it's symbolic of them again, by way of their magic, which is by and large Crowleyan forms of sex magic. Crowley understood that through sex magic rituals, he could get more accomplished than by any other types of workings, and you know, he called his rituals workings. So the importance of sex ritual magic to the elite is huge, and it's been talked about a number of times, even in Bryce Taylor and Kathy O'Brien's writings and lectures. They talk about the importance of sex and using magic over sexualized slaves, over sex slaves. And this is where you also get the MK Ultra mind control beta program sex slaves that people talk about, like Rihanna, who ironically had a tour called the 777 tour. Another thing I looked at with the 777, and when I found out some more things about Crowley's book by the same name, Aleister Crowley, yes, the leading magician of the 20th century, the leading wizard who helped to refine the rituals for the honorary degree, the 33rd degree, where they tell initiates finally that, well, the source of the light you've been looking for is Lucifer, and Lucifer is really God, and he's the good guy, and the quote-unquote God of the Bible, he's a bad guy, he's an angry, jealous God, and he wanted to keep man locked up in the garden, and Lucifer set man free, which is where you get Charlie Wilson saying, just like Adam and Eve, you said you set me free in the song, you dropped a bomb on me. Now, we know Isaiah said, and Jesus quoted, that he saw Lucifer fall from heaven like a bolt of lightning. And the traditional way that the lightning bolt is drawn is 3 sevens. If you look at it, look at that. 7 at the top, 7 at the bottom, 7 at the top, 7 at the bottom, and 7 in the middle. My God. Even this way, you got the upside down 7, you got a backward upside down 7, and you've got another 7 here. I mean, you've got a right side 7, you've got an upside down or inverted 7, and you've got another one at the top. Either way, you traditionally draw a lightning bolt. We've seen that on the costume of superheroes or superheroes, which are to symbolize fallen angels, Nephilim and Raphael. And the superhero, the Flash, wore that on the front of his costume. All right. Somebody recount the tale of the Flash, and I'm sure there'll be more secrets that are stashed. But even on the album cover for Zapp, who used electronics and technology that we know now the real root of technology is technology, and that comes from, by and large, from beings who taught mankind, like Dogon said, that the serpentine demons taught them. And these are beings from other dimensions, not from other planets. Harry Potter, even with the lightning bolt on his forehead. Also, if you look at the video for the unclean being called Centipede, the song Centipede by Rebe Jackson, we know comes from a family who was under this mind control, her brother famously so. But Rebe Jackson had a song called Centipede, in which a similar symbol is shown on her head. But Zapp was well known for making electronic music, or taking electronic music to the next level, and making the voice box popular, which is now revitalized by the auto-tune, which is no doubt not only the same intent as the voice box, but it must be the voice box 2.0, to where they've done something to make that robotic voice more hypnotic, and which is why it's very prevalent in music today. But yes, Rihanna had a tour called 777, and Revelations 9 talks about the key to the bottomless pit. Okay. The 27th figures prominently because, again, it was the 27th that SIRI talked about. But again, thanks to the Groks, we looked at the fact that the 27th is 7 days out from July 20th, and some interesting things happen and have happened on July 20th. First of all, historically, it's the siege of Jerusalem by Rome. When? In 70 AD. Another 7 plus 0. In 70 AD, July 20th, the siege of Jerusalem by Rome. And, you know, the fallen beings are behind these things. These so-called powers that be, some of them aren't as smart as a box of rocks, but they're guided by beings who are millennia old. And they tell the things that they are told, and they do the things that are often shown, and certain things that have been shown, because they have an understanding of time and of numbers and of seasons and signs, Genesis 1 and 14, that we don't have. But in Revelations 9, it talks about the key to the bottomless pit being given. And that's so key. Perhaps we'll look at that. Revelations 9. But July 20th was also the date of the moon landing. And we know how important that is, the moon being very important, the ancient moon cults, the worship of the moon, the symbolism of the night, where all things done in the darkness will be brought to the light, and they do much of their devilment in the dark. But in Revelations 9, and the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, like the lightning bolt, like Lucifer falling like lightning. And to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. So in Revelations 9, which is the 2 plus 7 in July 27, it happens to say the same thing that SIRI said about the date itself, the 27th itself. But it's 1 week out, and we know that the weeks, the months, the years, they themselves have certain spiritual symbolism and importance. So 1 week, as the 7-day theory was, of course, originally shown in Genesis, not originally shown by Tupac, but the importance of 7 days is important. You know, you practice things for a week, you know, to begin a habit, but they say 30 days really takes you to the level of of taking something from a practice to a habit. But July 20th is also the beginning of the zodiac sign that they call Leo, which ironically is Obama's sign. And he makes comparisons to himself as the Lion King. He is the king of lying, so he's the Lion King. But it also has to do with the scripture that compares the devil to a roaring lion. Well, it says like a roaring lion or as a roaring lion. So he's masquerading as the Lion of Judah, masquerading as a real lion but not a real lion. Okay? So the beginning of Leo has to do with that as well as it's a sun sign, and their worship of the sun is notorious. You often will see Obama pictured with bright sun behind him. There's one very famous picture where he's throwing up the Baphomet with the sun so bright that all he appears to be is a dark figure throwing up the Baphomet. But 777 is the name of a rather notable Crowley book, which is really titled 777 and Other Kabbalistic Writings of Aleister Crowley, having to do with the Kabbalah. One of the keys, like the Lesser Key of Solomon, the Goetia, one of the keys to opening up the spiritual realms, and people believe allowing them to work for you. In reality, they work through you, and they work you too. They work you to death. But this book, 777 and Other Kabbalistic Writings of Aleister Crowley, was introduced by Dr. Israel Regardie, which when I looked at the word, a couple of things jumped out at me. To regard something, well, to disregard something is not to pay attention to it, not to think of it, not to consider it. So to regard means to think of or to consider. So that has to do with considering Israel, looking at Israel. Now, it's also in the title, sometimes you'll see Liber 777, which we know in Latin or in French of le libre, which means the book, and in Latin, liber, which means book. But also, it is the root of where we get freedom. And it has to do with mankind's deception that by knowledge he will be free. Books giving you freedom. Liberty. Liber, liberty. The title refers to a lightning flash. This was from Wikipedia, but this was from another work Wikipedia was citing. But it says that the title 777, according to Crowley, refers to a lightning flash. Again, we have Isaiah's description. A lightning flash descending the diagrammatic worlds, the zigzag pattern, suggesting 3 diminishing sevens. And it was published in 1973. Crowleyan symbolism of 3 sevens. So that may give us a little more to go on as we approach this date, which is 15 days away, 2 weeks away. So as we approach that date, we need to be looking out, and those who have other things to say and other things to add need to be adding those things so we can perhaps make them rethink their drink, or at least be aware, if nothing else, mentally and emotionally aware and prepared, but more importantly, spiritually aware and prepared. It is now time to be on fire for Messiah, and to give all praise due to Ahaya, to the Most High, the true and living God, and to repent, for the kingdom of heaven draweth nigh. And this is Unplugging.